Hey there, Knicks fans. The NBA season is back, and while teams continue to find their footing, our partners at FANATICS Sportsbook are already running championship plays. Bet with FANATICS and earn up to 10% fan cash on your bets, win or lose. So even if your bet misses, you're still scoring fan cash, which you can use on NBA gear, tickets, and exclusive FANATICS events. With fair play, if your player goes down injured in the first half, your bet stays live. Make the switch and get more ways to win with FANATICS Sportsbook. Winning, it's different here.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School Pregame Show. My name is Andrew Claudio, and it is time to preview another Knicks matchup. This time on Wednesday night against the Orlando Magic, the team that over the past several years I've enjoyed checking in on and seeing their improvement and the rejuvenation of the Magic franchise. Now they might also be somewhat in the Knicks' way. We'll see if a slow start changes any of the projections that a lot of people had before the season about where this team could end up at the end of this season. A team with a very high over-under at the beginning of the year. I believe it was either 49.5 or even 50.5 for the Orlando Magic. But they come into this game at 5-6. Now, full disclosure, I don't know what happened in the Knicks game on Tuesday night against the Grizzlies. I'm hoping it was a victory because that would change the vibe significantly when you're watching this. But the Magic at least are coming off of one of their best wins, if not the best win of the season, a thrilling buzzer-beating victory down in MSG Disney in Orlando. I believe they also call it the Kia Center, but I don't acknowledge it as that. The Magic do come in at 5-6, a much-needed victory. I tell you, we're going to eventually talk about that game, Knicks fans. We're about to have that game for the regular season version, up 13 in the fourth quarter, up 9 with 2.5 left. And the Portland Trail Blazers came back to tie this game at 112 all. And then Desmond Bane hit a buzzer beater to completely erase all of that. Now everything's fine. They have had some offensive struggles to start the year. There has been some fire, or I guess some smoke under the seat of Jamal Mosley, the head coach. And Des Bane has not gotten off to the greatest start from a shooting standpoint. They come in, as we like to do in checking on our notes, 19th in offense, 15th in defense, 20th in net rating, completely even. They have a 0.0 net rating. They have scored as many points, or at least as far as offensive and defensive rating is concerned, it's been completely even to start the season, which actually is progress over years past from an offensive standpoint, that they're 19th in offense, but the defense hasn't been what we've expected. The three process numbers we like to look at as well, field goal attempts, because this team is toward the top of the league in pace, or maybe around league average, 13th, 11th in pace, I believe, but 27th in field goal attempts per game, 28th in three-point field goal attempts per game, and then 23rd in three-point percentage. You guys have hopefully been watching this for years, Knicks Film School for years. We're right on that doorstep of 50,000 subs, so please help us get there. But you've hopefully, if you've been here for a long time, remember where I like to go for all my Orlando Magic content. I will start the Knicks Magic rivalry for this season. I believe this is now season 4 of me checking in on the Orlando Magic with my good friends at the Sixth Man Show, and joining me to preview this matchup between the Knicks and the Magic, Mr. Jonathan Osborne. Jonathan, how are you, sir? Welcome back.
AKA Jonathan Osborne.
That's right. Jonathan Osborne, because of Juan Soto.
What's going on, man? No, let's
just not talk about baseball or how baseball season ended for one of the teams.
Absolutely not. We don't need to do that at all.
No need whatsoever. I mean, one team didn't make the playoffs. One team didn't make the World Series, which is akin to them not making the playoffs to the fan standard. I do think both of our teams in basketball will make the playoffs, potentially even play each other this season if they make the playoffs. But John, how are you?
Right now, we're trying to get back into the play-in. That's where the Magic are. I think that says all that needs to be said about the Magic's slow start. But no, I'm doing fantastic. All things considered, Magic could be doing a little bit better. I tend to let this team take too much, of my like mental and emotional capacity when it comes to the wins and the losses. But no, last night was a lot of fun. It wasn't, the type of buzzer beater where the shot goes in and you're just like elated, and it was just pure relief that they didn't find a way to lose that game because, as you alluded to, like they had 11-point lead to start the fourth, got it up to 13 with like 9 minutes to go. It was 9 with like 4 minutes to go. It was 6 with under 2 minutes to go. And then it comes down to Paolo Banchero having to get a steal on the last offensive possession for the Trailblazers. He calls timeout. And then you've got 1 and some change for Desmond Bane to get that shot up. And just glad not to lose that game more than anything. But I know we're going to talk about the vibes. The vibes are a mixed bag right now.
Man, you love it when your guest sets you up perfectly for where you want the conversation to go. Because, yes, that would be a thrilling win under any other circumstances. The Knicks had a Mikal Bridges buzzer beater, which just fell into the most weird of circumstances. I just realized, against the Portland Trailblazers in Portland last year. It was on the same day that he, during a media scrum, said or campaigned for more playing time for the Knicks bench. Campaign Landry Shamet and some of the other players that Tom Thibodeau wasn't using. And it was during a very weird stretch where the Knicks didn't have Brunson and everybody was frustrated with Tibbs, and just the way things were going was not to expectations. And the first question I have for you, in a new season of expectations for the Magic, you, me, and Mr. Tucker, we have been in a group chat talking about expectations. What's the over-under total? Obviously, I got my buddy Sam Vecini, who said that the Magic will be the 1 seed this year during his Bold Takes episode. And they get off to a 3-6 start to the season. And Des Bane looks like a carbon copy of what you had in Contavious Caldwell-Pope last season. But now he cost you 3 first-round picks. So I say all of that to ask, as I do with every guest, how the vibes are. And more specifically, just how hard is everyone in Orlando hitting the panic button through 11 games so far this season?
Yeah, I think the hope is, and maybe this will say enough. I think kind of the consensus around the fan base today, Tuesday afternoon, or when we woke up Tuesday morning, is that hopefully that can be the moment that can really spark this team and kind of be like a catalyst or an inflection point for this team moving forward to kind of meet the expectations that we had on this team since Father's Day. The Desmond Bane trade happens, pretty early in the morning or like early afternoon, whenever that was. And since then, so we spent like a good 3.5-4 months listening to the Sam Vecinis of the world, and everybody kind of layered these expectations on the Magic. Maybe not that they could be the 1 seed, but they should win 50 games pretty easily. That they should be a top 3 to top 4 in the Eastern Conference. That the offense was going to be revolutionized. That sure, maybe the defense would take a little bit of a dip, but what you would be gaining offensively would be worth it. And to your point, like, we've finally made it out of the bottom 10 in offensive rating with that game last night. Kind of, we'll see if that sticks. But with the offense, being as bad as it is, I think right now, as you and I record, we're like 15th in defensive rating. That's just not good enough. That's not the Magic standard. That's not what Magic basketball has been and should be. So the vibes are, I really don't know where they are right now. If we lost that game last night, they would have been the lowest point in the Paolo and Franz era for sure. There's been a lot of the talk of, is Jamal Mosley's seat heating up? A lot of Magic fans are just outright calling for him to be fired, through the first 9-10 games of the season. And had you lost that game last night, it's like, okay, something certainly needs to change. So I'm just going to take a rain check on the vibes. Let's see Wednesday after the matchup between our two very favorite teams. And if the Magic look decent, in Kia North, if the Magic look decent there, the vibes will be pretty good. If they go into MSG and they just get smothered like they have in years before, where the offense is just kind of stuck in the mud, and if the Knicks offense gets going, which you guys have, under Mike Brown, looking pretty good on that front. We can talk about the Knicks expectations for you all so far to start the season, but the Knicks are obviously much closer to where the Magic wanted to be at this point in the season. I'm going to ask that we can take a rain check on the vibes, and I'll let you know Wednesday night. If I don't text you at all, they're not. Or if I don't respond to your text, they're not good.
Nothing will ever beat what happened last year when we did our KFS at MSG game, and we've never won when we have taken a group of Knicks fans to watch a game at MSG, and like no Paolo, no Franz, no Suggs, and I'm thinking, all right, this is finally going to be the game. We're playing the Orlando Magic for the 5th time this year. The Knicks just need to play a normal game, and of course they scored like 80 points. No one could hit anything, and Wendell Carter got us up at the paint. And as I'm walking out of the building, I text my wife like, hey, catching this train home, Knicks lost. And she goes, sorry, baby. And then sends me a voice note of her singing the Orlando Magic theme song. There will be no post-game text that will ever beat that, unfortunately.
Classic.
Maybe I could get her to sing Go New York, Go New York, Go if the Knicks end up winning on Wednesday. Look, we're full disclosure, Knicks fans, we're recording this Tuesday morning. So the Knicks game on Tuesday against the Grizzlies hasn't happened yet. But more important context to our conversation that we're having at this very second is that the Dallas Mavericks just fired Nico Harrison after a very poor 11-game start to the season. Now, what he did was like beyond repair to that franchise, like trading Luka and then just talking to fans in ways that you shouldn't talk to your customers. With the Magic, I mean, look, on Monday night, the Mavericks had a close game with the Bucks. If they had pulled it out, who knows what it could have done for the momentum and maybe, like you said, inflection point for the Mavericks season, potentially turning things around. It's crazy to say that, like you said, let's take a rain check on vibes, but they then go to New York and get a big win, and then weird schedule for the Magic, by the way. They then welcome Brooklyn to Orlando. Why they wouldn't just play? Why the schedule makers wouldn't just make them stay in New York and then play Brooklyn is a bit questioning to me. But like you see a path at least back to 500, and then it's like a clean slate, and then maybe some of the things regress in a different direction. Where I want to go next is, like you mentioned, Jamal Mosley and the hot seat, and like. So you mentioned something needing to change if they lose last night. I'll just ask, if they lose last night, they blow the 9-point lead with however many minutes left, blow the double-digit fourth quarter lead, and with all the questions that have already been existing, like, do you think they would have made a change last night? And is that like an indication of how like near a potential change this all could potentially be?
I can tell you, Paolo fouls Jerry and Grant on that alley-oop for them to potentially kind of put that game away. And in that moment, my emotions got the best of me. And I was thinking that somebody should be fired. That's for sure.
Whoa. You're like the most even-keeled person that I've ever met. Well, okay. I've also seen you lose your mind watching sports. So yeah,
outside of sports, I am. But like sports is just a different arena. It's a different energy. Not that you ever want to see somebody to lose their job, but like these head coaches get fired. Mm-hmm. They get bought out.
Part of the gig. Fan is short for fanatic. We're allowed to behave
do
this
just
way.
Fine, right? Yeah. They'll be just fine in the grand scheme of things. But no, I genuinely don't think that a move would have been made. Would it have been pretty like indicative of just like the early season issues, like in terms of the turnovers, which, for the Magic, they did an okay job of that last night. I think ended up with 15 turnovers on the night, or maybe it was 13 for the Portland Trailblazers, who were turning the league over at the highest rate of anybody. By the Magic standard, it was a pretty decent night after that first quarter of taking care of the basketball. But then just those last, 9 minutes where the offense just completely evaporated, like just would have kind of been a symptom of everything that's been going on. So no, I don't think a move would have been made. Would I have felt that it was just like another like mark on the graph kind of trending in that direction? Yes. But no, it's tough. My critique of Jamal Mosley has just been that the rest of the roster has grown. Guys have obviously improved year over year. The roster is getting better. He's the guy that just doesn't seem like has had the same level of growth as a lot of other points in terms of the roster and guys developing their, individual games. We still see things with rotations, and there's no Jalen Suggs in these back-to-backs. And the games that he does play, he's limited to like 21 minutes. So he's playing in these weird, like 3 to 4 minute stints. So they're having to play kind of weird rotations at times. But there are guys like a Tyus Jones who it's very obvious just he either doesn't know how to use Tyus Jones or Tyus Jones just doesn't have it and shouldn't see the floor right now. And there are other guys like Tristan da Silva who have arguably been like the Magic's most consistent player, like game over game this season, who should see an increase in minutes. And it's teams going on extended runs without him calling timely timeouts. And that's been a trend over the last several years. And every year, the Magic being bottom 10 in the league in terms of turnover percentage, some point, like something has to give. And the Magic just don't really have other moves that can be made at this point. They don't have the draft capital after the Desmond Bane trade. They don't really have a lot of pieces on this roster that they can afford to lose that other teams would deem as valuable. So if you're just going to kind of sit on your hands as this team, started 3-5 on the season, and now they're 1-2 out of their last 3, and now you're 5-6. But if this front office is just going to deem that this is acceptable for an 82 game season, the Magic are not going to be anywhere near the expectations that have been put on them. So the way that I've been looking at it is that if this just bottoms out and it gets as bad as it can get, and the guys look like they're giving up on him and not responding to, coaching and his feedback and some of the fair criticisms that he's had of the team, it's really the only lever that is left for the Magic to pull, at least at this point of the year. As we go a little bit later into the season, there's going to be some finance stuff that they can do and move some pieces around and maybe bring in like a veteran, minimum kind of guy or like somebody in a buyout. But it's like, what is that really going to move the needle for you? So at this point, that's kind of like the one major button that is left that the Magic can press. Last night bought him a little bit of time and not like in the like, oh, it was such a great game, but it was like, it could have just been an awful, awful, awful loss. So I don't think they would have made a move. I think depending on the way that this next week and a half, 2 weeks go, like leading up to Thanksgiving, that's it. The schedule is weird, like you said, but you're starting to really get into the teeth of the schedule. So if we can figure some things out and, you win 5 out of your next 7 or 8 out of your next 11, things are going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, the inflection points that usually cause people to, or really people, organizations to let go of their head coach, like outside of like the Knicks firing Tibbs after making the conference finals, usually it's like a very clear, evident result that, okay, this isn't good enough. Like this is a step back. This is not meeting a standard. And to your point with making the transactions that they've made, now it's about, okay, I've put the roster, if you're the front office, I've put the roster that I believe should be better and it's not better. Let's change the process and the approach and see if it could be something different. Which, look, this is just like the reality of the NBA. This is why good coaches like Tom Thibodeau or potentially Jamal Mosley get let go and get replaced. We'll see, I guess, if it buys in some time, because you're talking about the expectations that are on this season. Jonathan, we're in again, year 3 of doing this. And I remember very arrogantly coming on the Sixth Man show and saying I don't worry about the Orlando Magic. And apparently the Magic took that personally, like Michael Jordan, and decided that they were going to become a legitimate, preseason threat in the Eastern Conference. I'll just ask you, what were the expectations before the last 11 games? And I guess you can continue with the next, 71 games for the rest of this season. What are the expectations that you have for the Orlando Magic this season?
Yeah, I think coming in, there's a difference between expectations and my hopes, right? I'm a very, very emotional guy. I don't ever apologize. And I love my sports teams as hard as I love anything. And I'm an eternal optimist. So when you mix those two things together, I was like, I'm not making plans for June, So no, expectations. I expected this team to win 50 plus games, be top 3-4 seed in the Eastern Conference, win a first round playoff series, and at the bare minimum, play a very hard fought competitive second round series where, you lose in 6 or 7 games, depending on the opponent. So that was the expectations. And over the past, 3 weeks now, I guess, since the season started, the conclusion that I've reached in the last couple of days, really after the loss on Sunday to the Celtics, is that this team is going to have to earn back my expectations and my trust. Obviously, diehard, still going to watch every single game, going to live and die with the result. But I don't have the expectation anymore that this is just going to be a top 3 or a 4 seed team. Like right now, the way that they're playing, this to me, I do think they're going to figure things out, like regardless to a certain extent. And it won't be as bad as what we saw at the beginning of the season. But like they've been playing like a 6-7 seed at best in some of these games. Schedules starting to get a little bit tougher, but the defense is starting to come along, right? Like the defense was atrocious through the first 5 or 6 games. They started to find their footing there a little bit. It obviously could be better. Rotations could be better. Shooting could be better. A lot of things could be better. But process is really one of the biggest questions in my mind. Like, is this offensive process that if you watch the game, it's not a whole lot different than it was last year. It's kind of the Orlando Magic offense at like 1.75 speed. We talked about the pace being a little bit better. They started to dial that back. I think they're 6th or 7th in the league about a week and a half ago. And now they're right around 13, 15, somewhere around there. But the process to me is Sunday we lose to Boston. Desmond Bane has 1 3-point attempt. And he was on, I think it was Kevin O'Connor's show before the season started, and mentioned that the Magic want him to set a career high in attempts per game this year, like around 8 or 9. And for that guy to have 1 attempt in a game, to me is just, it's unacceptable. Whether it's that was the game plan, just have him kind of attack Boston as they close out and, attack the rim off the dribble, or you just can't scheme him open. Neither of those are good process. So in terms of expectations, I've just had to really reset it and say, hey, like right now, this team isn't even in the play-in. So they're going to have to earn back those expectations. We put all these things on them. They could be a Eastern Conference contender. Maybe they could be a finals contender. And it's been a while since any of my teams have been anywhere near that. And I remembered that, oh yeah, that kind of stuff is earned. You can't just throw that on a team and wake up and expect that to happen. So this team has not earned those expectations from me or from anyone else. And they're going to have to earn that kind of stuff back.
I'm sorry to do this to you because
please.
I love you.
I love going through my trauma. It's great.
Oh, just, I love you, Jonathan. But
I love you.
All your teams have, it's been a while since all of your teams have been, your baseball team was in the World Series too. You're such a Yankee fan. Like the fact that they were literally on the doorstep of a championship.
The thing with that though is New York baseball as good as anybody does, like your Mets and the Yankees. It's just like everybody knew, even going into the World Series last year, going into the playoffs this year, that the roster like wasn't good enough, that it was just, we're running the same thing back year after year. And Cashman is just like hoping that they're going to luck into a World Series, and you get into these series with better teams. And it's drastic how much better the best teams are, right? Like, do you have a little bit of solace that the Blue Jays went to the World Series? Sure. But as they went through the postseason, you realize they are just so much better than what the Yankees are. And like, I'm the kind of guy, whatever team it is, the Yankees have won World Series in the last 16 years now. Mm-hmm. And like, you can't just yell 27 all day long, all day, every day, like some Yankees fans do.
Oh, they do though.
Oh, I know they do. I know they do. But you can't just rest on those laurels forever. At some point, like, you have to realize that the process that we're in is not cutting it. And at the end of the day, we're not playing for second place. We're playing for first place. And I hold every single one of my teams to that standard. So although I do get the irony of like, oh, hey, you were just in the World Series, but it's like, hey, we're not playing for second place, man. We want to win it all. And it's very obvious that the process that so far the Magic have in place and the Yankees have in place has not been good enough.
I hear you about the Magic. I just will forever, as from a Mets fan perspective, laugh at that Yankee
totally
perspective. Fair. But I think if the Magic got second place this year, that would be a huge accomplishment. Even if, like if they actually do end up playing and get second place, I think the again, the expectations are a thief of joy. I think you're the one that actually told me that either last year or the year before, which ends up being this complicated spot that the Magic and their fans find themselves in. Because look, I'm staring. I haven't looked at the standings yet, man, and I just did it based off of our conversation to check, and it's like they're 2 games out of the 2 seed at the moment. And so I hear you on the process, and I think the direction I want to go, because for Knicks fans who don't know about how Des Bane has struggled this year, lifelong 41% 3-point shooter, is shooting 27.7% from 3. And again, to your point, is only taking 4.3 threes per game this year. As I now pull up his career stats, the previous low for his career was 4.0, which he took his rookie season in the NBA. Hasn't shot less than 6 threes a game in any of his career seasons for a season during his time in Memphis since he was a rookie in the NBA. So there is some questions I have about how you get better looks for him and how you boost this offense more than just from like bottom 10 to just outside the bottom 10. I guess because of where the Magic have been and like an obvious leap, like you said, not making plans for June. A step forward would just be not making plans. No. I believe me, I've been there. I'm now in the place of not making plans for June. But like, the fact that if they were to make a second round, that is technically progress over the previous season. I mean, I'll ask for you and for Magic fans. Like, let's put you're going to speak on behalf of the majority of the fan base. What does disappointment look like at the end of this season? Let's play out the next 71 games that I'm very happy to see you're still living and dying with all of them and that the regular season still matters. But like, what does a disappointing Orlando Magic season look like to you?
I'm still if you're not in the second round, like playing competitive basketball, it's a failure, right? Like this team has been fortunate. Like let's be honest, right? Like Knicks, Cavs didn't get off to maybe like the best start, right? Like I'm looking at your Knicks; they've now won 4 in a row, sitting at second seed in the Eastern Conference. So like you're probably breathing a little bit easier today than you were a week and a half ago. But like if the Pistons 9-2 start, the Knicks, Cavs, like very easily those teams could be off to those types of levels of starts. And if they had, and now you're looking at like a couple of 9-2 teams at the top of the East, maybe like a 8-3 team, whatever. Now the Magic are even further back from kind of where they wanted to be. Like they've been fortunate that the East has been so close kind of to start the year. Now we're seeing some teams kind of pull away and look the way that we expected them to look. But so even if the Magic end up as like the 7, 6, 5 seed, something like that, don't end up with like a first round playoff, like home court advantage, I would still expect them to make that very competitive, if not like find a way to win that series. You still have 71 games, right? We've still got basically like 6 months until the playoffs start. I still expect this team that by the end of the year, they should figure out, whether it comes by the way of firing their head coach and Joe Prunty becomes the interim, or they bring somebody else, mid-season, like Adrian Griffin, Doc Rivers swap out. This team, this organization needs to find a way for this team to be playing at that level come the end of April, and into May. And if they don't, it's an organizational failure. I don't know who at that point you assess blame to, but it's an organizational failure if this team isn't able to reach their potential and play their best basketball at the end of the year. So my expectation would still be that they play into the second round. If you lose in the first round, heads need to roll. Like there needs to be massive organizational change for this basketball team.
I don't know if this is any comfort to you, but in the Claudio power rankings, I still have the Magic. Like I would be shocked if they're not a top 5 seed this year, personally. Yeah. And I think the talent that they have, like I think Paolo, the conversation around Paolo is something we're about to talk about. I know this is something that maybe you've dabbled in it on the internet in conversations.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
But like there's just too much talent on this team. adding Bane and just in this conference, I know the Bulls are adorable. And this story at the beginning of the season is just like, oh, wow, they're fast. And that, yes, sure, they're going to be a great 7 seed. But this, what the Magic are, and I think what their defensive infrastructure has been over time, will eventually regress to the mean as the shooting comes back. I do have questions about Jamal Mosley, if he can coach a deep playoff offense, or if he can put together an offense that is a little bit more creative, that gets Des Bane more looks than what he's had so far this season. But I would be shocked if you're not playing second round. Matchups obviously matter, but if you're not playing second round basketball, and then who knows, maybe it's a second round matchup against me and me, because I play for the team, against the New York Knicks, and we're doing some crossovers during the playoffs. Paolo Banchero. I feel like I have gone to either side of this conversation, where I think he's underrated. I think he's a little overrated. So far this season, Paolo Banchero, again, very young, small sample size to start the season, but Paolo Banchero, as Des Bane is still on my screen, so give me a second, John. I know he's shooting 27% from 3, which is what I think a lot of people go to, that he's not the most efficient. And as a result, like, the on-off numbers are what they are. I actually haven't seen what his lineup data is this season. But over time, the conversation has been, when he's your offensive hub or your engine, you're not as you're not in the best position to succeed. Whereas, like, the argument against it is like, dude, someone has to be the hub, and he's asked to be this, potentially somewhat like miscast, but like surrounded by no great spacing, no real point guard, always having someone in the dunker spot, and not the most ideal conditions. I'm staring at it now. 46% from the field, 25% from 3. That's right. Des Bane is shooting 27% from the 3-point line so far this season. And then 76% from the line for Paolo, but taking almost 9.9 free throws a game. Like, the guy lives at the line. And on the season, 23, 9, and 4 are his shooting splits. That's an all-star. Like, that's a guy that will I think he'll be in the All-NBA conversation at the end of the year. I do also hear the advanced side of things, where people point to some of his advanced numbers. I guess the question I'll ask is, what part of the Paolo conversation nationally are you tired of having or hearing about when it comes to Paolo Banchero?
I understand, like, the advanced metrics, part of the conversation, and he's not a perfect player by any means, right? Like, those don't really exist unless I don't know, Victor Wembanyama is looking.
Jalen Brunson's pretty perfect.
Well, I mean, whatever. No, he's not a perfect player, but right. The conversation that I'm sick of having is like, oh, he's just not good. Like, somebody said a couple weeks ago that he reminds them of Josh Smith, and I was just like, what are we doing? And then I'm getting Houston Rockets fans, in my mentions, like, comparing him to Jalen Green, or saying how they're so happy that they ended up with Jabari Smith Jr. because they just weren't high on Paolo Banchero, like, coming, into the draft. And as we all know, had Paolo Banchero gone to the Houston Rockets at 3, the narrative now would be like, how did the Magic mess this up? Because if it would have been Jabari, or would have, been Chet or whatever, maybe the conversation wouldn't be about the Orlando Magic, but it would be about how fortunate the Houston Rockets were to get a guy like Paolo Banchero at 3. So that's really the real fatigue that I have. People that just say that he's overrated, or that he's just not good at all. Like, this year, he is doing what the critics have been asking him to do for years. Like, he's taking the highest percentage of his attempts at the rim, getting rid of the long 2s and the 3s, like, both of, that percentage of his shot diet are at career lows. I do think part of the problem has been the lack of attempts from Bane from deep, but also the percentage. Bane is still very much getting the respect of defenders. Like, he has the reputation. He's going to kind of snap out of that. But the guys around him and Bane, in Jalen Suggs, in Franz Wagner and Wendell Carter Jr., even though those guys are shooting really well, they're not yet being respected like they are. So we're not really seeing the spacing that if you just look at the raw 3-point shooting numbers for Franz Wagner, 37%, which what I believe would be a career high. For Wendell, 45.5%, Jalen Suggs, 45.5%. Franz on 4.2 attempts, Wendell on 3 attempts, Jalen on 4.1 attempts per game. So like decent volume, shooting the ball really well, but those guys just are not quite yet getting the respect of the defense. So on paper, it looks like the spacing should be there. The spacing isn't quite there yet. Like teams are still loading up on Paolo Banchero, 3, sometimes 4 to the ball even. And he's just, he's had some bad turnover games. I think Sunday it was 6 turnovers against the Boston Celtics, because again, like he takes one step into the 3-point line and teams are just continuing to load up on him on that end. And he hasn't shot the ball all that great to start the year, 25% on threes, 46.6% from the floor overall. He's missing like just a lot of the Paolo Banchero shots that we're accustomed to him like getting to his spots, whether it be the baseline or whether it be like that right, like just inside the elbow and just rising up. Like he's missing shots that we're accustomed to him making. The shooting just hasn't really been there to start the year, but he's doing all the things that all of the critics, all the so-called experts have been asking him to make in his game. He's just not really seeing the results just yet. Last night, I think, was a really good step in that direction. I think all that's going to come for Paolo. He's also leading the team in rebounds and blocks per game. So he's taking steps in that direction. The defense has been, maybe not significantly better this year. He's never been just completely like a net negative on that end, but he has been more engaged on that side of the basketball this year. He made the game-saving steal Monday night against the Trailblazers that led to the Desmond Bane 3. So I think it's just a matter of time. I really do believe he's still going to be in those all NBA type of discussions at the end of the year. And I think come playoff time, if the Magic can figure things out, get their stuff together and end up with home court advantage in the first round, I think we're going to hear a lot of, oh, look at Paolo taking the leap, when really all it's going to be is hopefully this team stays healthy and his teammates not named Franz Wagner play like half decent in a first round playoff series. Give him a little bit of help and people are going to be like, wow, look at Paolo Banchero. It's like, no, he's kind of doing what he's been doing. He's just kind of getting more help. And yes, the shot diet has gotten a little bit better this year, but I think all that's going to come. I think there is going to be a switch up with Paolo Banchero. And I'll just say, like, keep the disrespect to a minimum, because you have to have the apology be as loud as that. And in today's day and age, people just don't do that, right? They want to be crazy disrespectful, but then when the guy turns it around, they don't want to give him a lot of credit. They'll just be like, oh, well, this is what he should have been doing all along.
Yeah.
But
yeah. The apology must be as loud as the disrespect.
And it never is.
It never is. Yeah. I'm staring at its cleaning the glass numbers now. You're right. 40% of his shots are coming at the rim this year. It's the first time he's at 40% to start the season. The long mid range is at 11%, which would be a career low so far this season. So like the frequency actually does seem to be something that's more conducive to what like people have said, more of the ideal shot chart for your superstar in today's league. I'm looking at the on off and he's already at plus 12 so far this season. So plus 14.6 to start the season.
I think that's better than Franz. As much as I love Franz,
it is.
That's always been the conversation, right? That the Magic are better with Paolo off the floor. They're better with Franz on the floor. Like he's literally doing everything that they've been asking. I think it's just cool and fun to hate on Paolo Banchero for some reason. I don't know when that became a trend, but it's very much a trend.
Yeah. This season, at least through these 11 games, that I gotta tell you, I'm waiting for the Bane like regression to the mean to hit that shooting. Well, obviously you're waiting for that, and I know after last season, there's probably some PTSD for Magic fans that with what Caldwell Pope ended up being, and then you had to go get the ultimate surefire example of consistently hitting your threes, and even he is off to a tough start this season. But I I think they have a lot of talent is where I'm at. I don't personally indulge in the who's better. Paolo is good at basketball. That'll be the thing I will concede, I guess, in that argument. Paolo Banchero is all we asked for. That's all. I think he's a borderline all-star. I think Franz could also be a borderline all-star. In this conference, both of them might make the all-star team, but we'll see what happens. So the New York Knicks, I don't know if you've heard of them. I know you've heard many of a fan that roots for them at your home games.
Once or twice, yeah.
Just a few. They obviously come into this season with similar expectations. And I got to be honest, this conversation, John, has been refreshing because I'm talking to someone that is living and dying with regular season games. And like the Knicks lost, there are Mets fans. There are still Knicks fans doing that, believe me. But they started 2-0, and it was like, oh, we did the right thing getting rid of Tibbs. And look at Mike Brown. He can walk on water. Then they lost 3 in a row, and it's like, oh no, what did we do? We had this dependable thing with Tibbs. Miss me yet? And then they've won 4 straight, and it's like, we should have got rid of him sooner. And it's just like, for the majority of Knicks fans I talk to and talk about, like, we'll see in April is a lot of the feeling around Knicks fans. Just if I can get your thoughts on the Knicks, their decision to fire Tibbs, this is a rare conversation from the pods I've had lately, but how you like see the Magic stacking up against them in a 7-game series that may happen in April or in May. And just your thoughts on the New York Knicks.
Yeah, I think, the thing with Tibbs is like great coach, great at like getting you not only to like the next level from where your team is, but like usually like several levels up. But then just always kind of seems to outwear his welcome with fan bases, with the players that play for him. And it did kind of feel like something with you all needed to change. Mike Brown, obviously very different from Tibbs. Offense, I don't exactly remember where you all finished last year. I guess my question, I believe
they were 6th in offense last year, but continue. Yeah,
2nd right now in the league, as I look at NBA.com. So I think you're all probably pretty happy with that, obviously. But no, I mean, my thought coming into the year was, there was going to be a lot difference in the way that you guys play offensively, and it was going to take time for you all to figure it out. But absolutely expected you all to be 1-2 seed in the Eastern Conference. So where you are right now doesn't really surprise me at all. In terms of where the Magic stack up right now against the Knicks, we're going to find out really soon. As we record, my feeling is, as of right now, we don't really stack up to the Knicks because we just haven't proven that we can play a certain way and do that at a consistent high level. So right now, I want no part of a Knicks Magic playoff series for multiple reasons. The way that you guys
jump in. Let's pretend the last 11 games didn't happen. Going into this season, how did you stack up? But I know it's hard to not use the recent evidence, but let's going into this season, like, were you thinking, you know what? Defensive infrastructure, add Des Bane, Paolo and Franz take another leap. Why shouldn't I know we joked about not making plans for June, but like, were you and Magic fans thinking we can give the Knicks a shot in a 7-game series? Yeah. Why not us?
Yeah, absolutely. I probably would have flipped a coin, a few percentage points, here or there. A lot of factors, right? Like every year, there's injuries to a team, and now all of a sudden, they're not quite as high in the standings as you thought they were going to be. So if the Magic found a way to have home court advantage in a 7-game playoff series, against the Knicks. And let me just say this, right? Like, we've had a playoff series now against the Boston Celtics. We've seen like other teams, like fans come into our building the last couple of years. And every time the let's go Celtics or whoever those chants get going, Magic fans have done a really good job of like drowning those out. We even saw that a couple of years ago. I think the Magic and Knicks played in Kia on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was like the day after Valentine's. It was around.
No. I remember it was a day. So no, you're right. It's the day after, but I remember being forced to No. They did play on Valentine's Day.
It was Valentine's Day.
Yes, it was the last game before the All-Star break. The Knicks had like 3 players available. Obi Toppin's little brother played in this game.
Perfect.
So yeah, that was a Valentine's
even
Day
in
game.
that game, there were some like, let's go Knicks chance. And, they got drowned out. I know circumstances were very different. Magic ended up, winning that game pretty comfortably from what I remember. But that to me is like the final boss. Like if we can drown out the Knicks fans in Kia, we'll have really like seen the culture around Magic basketball in the city of Orlando, like really come full circle. So for that reason alone, don't really care to have a Magic Knicks playoff series. But no, before the season, like pretty much anybody, right? Like we saw the Cavs underperform the playoffs last season. Like whatever team it was, I could talk my way into the Magic winning in like a 7-game playoff series. Things are very different now. Right. 11 games into the season. Again, the Magic have to earn that level of expectation and trust for me to say like, oh no, we could give them a run for their money. Right now, I have no reason to really believe that other than the theory of what this team could be and still probably should be. But they need to prove that they can be that team because they just have not been that team consistently so far in this season. Like they've got 3 wins on the they've got 5 wins on the season. 2 of those have come against the Charlotte Hornets and the Washington Wizards. So like, I don't really like you win those games handedly, but I don't really count those games. Like you should win those games and they looked great. But in the games that have mattered so far to start the year, like you get your butts kicked by the Bulls, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Detroit Pistons, like back to back to back. 2 losses to the Atlanta Hawks so far this year. You've got like 1 win against the Celtics where the Magic shot like 46% from 3, hit 17 threes in that game. Like I need you to prove to me that you can still be the ugly, grinded out, we're just going to beat the crap out of your Orlando Magic. And they haven't done that this year. So I have no reason to believe that they could beat the Knicks right now in a 7-game playoff series.
So I'm staring at November 22nd. The Knicks played the Magic in Kia, I will call it by its government name.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Then they play back here at that MSG on the 7th. December 7th, a Sunday. A noon start. I'm sorry. I went to producer brain for a second. That noon start's going to be hell to do a pregame pod for. I'm staring at 2 checkpoints now that I think are better indications of vibes, expectations, whether they've earned that back. Because this stretch that the Magic currently have between after the Knicks, it's Brooklyn, Houston, Golden State, the Clippers, and then you're playing the Knicks again. But this is at least that 2nd game in December, which I'm staring at it also. The Knicks don't play the Magic the rest of the season. So there's a chance, John, that after that December 7th date, that I almost made a date which will live in infamy joke, but I'm not going to do that. The fact that they play each other on December 7th and then like don't play each other again until the playoffs, like that might be a new look Magic team. They might have a different coach. They may have a different like point guard on their team. They may have made a roster move. It actually makes things a little more fascinating from a Knicks perspective that I don't know what version of the Magic the Knicks might see come playoff time. I will just say, before we get to our last question, I am not afraid of the Magic. I do think they are one of the teams in the Knicks way that like, hey, that's not going to be a series I go into and say, oh yeah, Knicks in 5, we got this. Even if, to your point, I think the Knicks would have 7 home games. I do think that is a series the Knicks would have to go earn and win, similar to the Detroit series last year. Like I looked at what Detroit was on paper, how tough of a matchup, how physical they were going into it. And with what Paolo, I believe he is, and what he was in the playoffs, my goodness, last year against Boston, I believe the Knicks would have to earn that series. But we'll see. We'll see if the Magic earn that trust back with you. And it sounds like the rest of that fan base. So, okay. I've been asking everybody this question to wrap up pregame pods this year. But the Knicks, I mean, you talk about the Magic just almost blew a double-digit 4th quarter lead, a 9-point lead with a couple minutes left. The Knicks actually did blow a 14-point lead with 2.5 minutes left in game 1 of the conference finals last year. And Bill Simmons calls this phenomena that game. where you just say that game to a fellow fan and everybody knows which game you're talking about. What is that game, that devastating loss for Magic fans in their history that they know? That you say that game, oh, that's the game you're referring to.
1995 NBA Finals, Game 1. Nick Anderson misses 4 free throws. Kenny Smith hits the 3, going to overtime, and you get swept. That's like the only one.
I gotta be honest. I was wondering if there was a second one because I know you're not. How old are you, by the way? I don't know if I've ever asked this.
32 years old.
So like you were alive for that, but you were one or close to. You were a child back then.
Yeah, no, I mean I've gone back and done my homework and
right.
And
I'm just saying,
the
like
history,
for
obviously.
you, a loss you experienced. I've wondered if there is one. Like for me, I don't remember the Patrick Ewing finger roll from 1995 or like the Reggie Miller 8 points in 8 whatever seconds. Like my version of that game was Tyrese Halliburton last year. So I didn't know if there was a runner-up that came close to, for Magic fans, Nick Anderson missing 4 free throws.
It would have to be the 2009 NBA Finals. The game number is eluding me now. Basically, like the Pau Gasol, it should have been a goaltend. Courtney Lee misses the layup, and you end up losing that game. But that, in my Magic fandom, that would have to be the one that I can remember the best. And
but it's Nick Anderson and then a distant second. You're saying?
Oh, for me, it's far and away distant second. I mean, you still lose that Lakers series in 5 games. Trying to think. I mean, the very next year, you go down 0-3 to the Celtics. You make that a 3-2 series, and then you have a chance to tie Game 6 at the end. JJ Redick grabs the rebound, and instead of calling timeout and advancing the ball, puts the ball on the floor. So now you're having to take it side out of bounds, like the 3/4 court, and Jameer Nelson just throws up a heave and it doesn't go in. Game 7 against the Cleveland Cavaliers from a couple of years ago, where you're up 18 on the road in the second half of that game, and looks like you're going to roll your way to a first round, Game 7 win and go into the second. Franz Wagner, I can't remember. I think it was like 0 of 7 from 3 for him in that game. Something like 4 of 20 from the floor. Magic fans are going to kill me for not remembering his exact numbers in that game, but there's been a couple of them, but like it definitely felt like that 95 team at so far to this point in the franchise's history was the best chance that you had at winning a title. And everybody says that if the Magic find a way to win that game, they win the series. I know it's crazy to say that in a series that you got swept, but for a team that was so young, it was just the epitome of like letting the air out of the balloon. And at that point, just had no confidence that they were going to be able to, go on the road and win a couple of games and kind of swing that series back the other way. But it's Game 1 of the 95 finals for sure.
I think that's the correct answer. Again, you talk to Knicks fans that are just a little bit older than me. Like when I say Reggie Miller 8 points in, I forget what the exact number, 8.7 seconds. Every Knicks fan knows what that means. If I say finger roll, every Knicks fan knows what that means. And both of those happened during a 1995 playoff series against the Pacers. Whereas for me, and I got to be honest, those would have been my answer before last year. Even though like I obviously watched the Knicks for a pretty irrelevant 21st century for most of it, but in the points, like losing to the Pacers in 2013 with Carmelo Anthony and that 54-win team was tough, but like that was a 6-game series that just didn't go your way. The phenomena of that game is always fascinating, and I knew that was going to be your answer. I didn't know if it was if it spanned generations or not, and apparently it's just something you're born into, Jonathan.
Yeah, and it was Game 2. I knew that. I don't know why I didn't say Game 2, but yeah, Game 2 in LA. If you
the
win
Courtney
that game,
Lee game. The
Courtney Lee game. Yep, it's a 1-1 series going back to Orlando. Yeah, it should have been a goaltend. The layup was not going in, but by rule, by definition, it should have been a goaltend. Pau Gasol sticking his hand up into the net as that attempt misses. By rule, should have been a goaltend. Magic should have won that game on a technicality. But yeah.
So I remember this series because the Magic lose game 2 because of the goaltend. Game 4, they have a chance to tie the series. Dwight misses 2 free throws to keep it a 3-point game. And Derek Fisher, with Jameer Nelson playing for the drive, pulls up from 3 to tie it. And then the Lakers win in overtime. Like, does game 4 compete with game 2 in any way?
No, just because it's like the play that stands out. And it just feels
whole
like
series is different if it's 1-1.
The whole series is different if it's 1-1. And then, I mean, you're probably still losing that series. But just hoping that somehow this Magic team can find out a way to get back to those heights. I would love to have another game, right? Like I love to have games that matter enough that even if you lose it, it ends up being that game. Because now we're talking about games that like a couple of years we're going to be closing in on 20 years ago.
Yeah. I just that's perspective is amazing. That you're like, I'd love to be able to have that game, like another version of that game. And I tell you, John, as someone who just had that game last year, no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't want to get to the conference finals and have that type of. And I'm someone that obviously doing this for a couple of years. I hit these checkpoints of like, oh, it doesn't affect me as much as it used to. Then that game happens and it's like, oh, the next 3 days, maybe week or 2 are ruined. It absolutely has that effect. Just before we wrap up, to do some housekeeping. Franz Wagner in game 7 against the Cavaliers, 1 of 15, 0 of 5 from the field. Now, I don't like Jalen Suggs, 2 of 13 from the field. Oh, no. Paolo, 10 of 28. Like, that was a group effort in inefficiency.
It was tough.
But,
Franz just like Paolo had like really good moments, like had a great game 5, obviously, like on the road in Cleveland. Franz and the rest of the guys like played really well at home in that series. Like home team won every game in that series, but Franz got a lot of the blowback from that series because, obviously he's like 1A, 1B with Paolo, and he just didn't really show up in any of the road games. And then it's like, well, Paolo played so good in all the other games. Franz really needed to show up in that one. And obviously like the, 1 for 15, is 10 for 28. It's not great. 1 for 15 is like as bad as it can pretty much get, other than, 15 for 46. So I know that happened last night, but
there's a Cade thing. That's right. There's
just a little shade. I like Cade. I really do. All NBA last year, like was awesome. But like, especially with Pistons fans, it's just become a lot of it came from like Cole-Anthony inadvertently ending Jaden Ivey's season last year. We just got a lot of blowback from that. And then there was the Killian Hayes, Mo Wagner, beef from a few years ago. But like Pistons fans just hate Paolo Banchero. Houston's fans hate Paolo Banchero. Like it's just become this weird phenomenon to hate on Paolo Banchero. And hopefully he'll change their minds this year. We can
wrap on this. That's the Cade hive has entered into Knicks circles this year. That is actually he's better than Brunson. It's like, can he eliminate Brunson first before we have this conversation? How about when we have the Donovan Mitchell versus Brunson or the Cade versus Brunson conversation or the Maxey versus Brunson conversation? You defeat him in a playoff series first before. Now Halliburton's a different conversation. He's eliminated him twice. So I'll hear that conversation, but so
look, I'm all for like standing up for your guy, right? Like, but like, you don't have to try to cut some other guy down to raise up.
Oh no, that's how the internet works. You can't just be my guy's good, that guy's bad. That's just how the internet works, Jonathan. It's not just that the Mets rule; it's that the Yankees or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. I'm too old for this bleep, as Danny Glover once said in an action movie. Jonathan, it is always good to talk to you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
We've developed quite the friendship and quite the group chat, bonding over what? Oh my God, I'm blanking on Ben Stiller's show. The name. It's been so.
Oh, Severance. We like so good. We hated the ending, but we loved the show. We loved the process for sure. And we hate the Heat. So
yes, and we share that disdain for the Miami Heat, the Knicks' next opponent as well. Before you get out of here, where can people find the Sixth Man Show?
All over the place. Social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Sixth Man Show, spelled out SIXTH Man Show. Podcast, YouTube. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your stuff, you can find us. So always appreciate the time, man.
As always, thank you, John, for stopping by, and thank you to everybody for tuning in for another edition of the Knicks Film School Pregame Show. If you dug it, like this video, remember to subscribe if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, 5 stars and a review. Check out our bonus content on Patreon and on Substack, and as always, follow us on social at Knicks Film School. I'll be back on Friday. I get to preview 2 episodes because the Knicks play the Heat on Friday at MSG, and then on Monday at MSG South Beach. So it should be a fun weekend of conversations about some Florida basketball teams. Until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game tonight, and I'll speak with you soon. Peace.
Must be 21 or over. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See Fanatics Sportsbook app.